Many paratroopers that I have met over the years have never heard this fact, but the government, in about 1952, invited Field Marshal Montgomery to come to South Africa and advise them how to best defend South Africa from external and internal attacks. Field Marshal Montgomery drove from Johannesburg to Pretoria and then to Cape Town, and from Cape Town to Durban and up to Messina and back to Johannesburg. In his report, he told them they need to first and foremost start a parachute battalion so that they can get soldiers to the trouble spot as soon as possible. And secondly, they need to build roads that bypass the towns and cities so that you can mobilize the rest of your army to back up the paratroopers. So the good double road system we have was originally built for military reasons. In 1966, when I was doing my paratrooper training, the government invited Field Marshal Montgomery back to South Africa to show him what they had achieved. They put on a huge military display for him at Dabrug, and of course they had to show off the paratroopers. This is where the story begins. Sometime I wondered why I joined the paratroopers in the first place, as I was one of the worst people for air sickness. It didn't take much to get me going. The good thing about it was that I could not wait to get out of the plane. It took away all my fear of jumping. I think I could have even jumped out of the plane without a chute if I didn't have a chute. Anything to get rid of the air sickness. Back to the military display for Field Marshal Montgomery. It was all done with live rounds, and it started with artillery pounding the copy, which was supposed to be the enemy. In the meantime, we the paratroopers were flying round and round waiting for the orders to drop, and I am now starting to feel as sick as a dog. No one else is getting sick, only Adams. They gave me a packet to vomit into, and I was catching my heart out. The dispatch sergeant called me to the door of the plane and told me to hook up to the static line. I thought he felt sorry for me and was going to dispatch me so that I could bail out first along with the other paratroopers. But this is where I totally misunderstood him. All he wanted me to do was throw my packet out the door, and by making sure I was hooked up to the static line, he was simply taking safety measures in case I went out the door by accident. We were still extremely high, and in the confusion, I just bailed out of the plane. When my chute opened and I looked around me, to my horror, I realized I was the only one hanging up there, slowly drifting to earth. Hanging up there, under my canopy, this lone paratrooper, I was as conspicuous as a fly in butter. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, I suddenly realized that, as I was still drifting down to earth, the artillery were still shelling the copy. When I landed, I have never laid so flat on the ground in my life. Shells were bursting not that far from where I landed. I could hear shrapnel whizzing over me. I was terrified. At last the shelling stopped, and they dropped the remaining paratroopers, but they were about 1 kilometer or 2 from me. They opened fire on the enemy, and I just lay there too scared to move. There were no rattles in those days. We used Saracens. Eventually the Saracens arrived with the tanks and infantry, and they charged the copy. I still had not moved. When everything was over, I sneaked back and joined the other paratroopers. Apparently, they told Field Marshal Montgomery I was the Pathfinder.